All right, guys, this is the Gimble and Arn show. Today we've got a really special guest. We've got Semmler. Okay, Semmler, I'm going to try and say a real name. I'm going to fuck it up terribly, so I want you to correct me as soon as I finish, but I'm going to try.
Okay.
Auguste Massonat? Massonat?
Close. Close, yeah. So,
Okay, give it to me.
Auguste Massonat.
Auguste Massonat. Okay. I'm probably going to mess it up again later, but I tried. All right.
Yeah, it was a really good attempt. I've heard some really random shit in the past. That was really good. So.
Gimble and I thought I talked it over for a bit to see what we come up with. Well, I'll stick with Semmler, so I know that to keep it safe. Can you maybe introduce yourself and tell us a little bit just about your background, your history with gaming, competitive games, but also just video games in general?
Sure, yeah. You guys can hear me all right, right? Like, oh, that's fine?
Yep.
Yeah, so, yeah, what's up, everybody? My name is Semmler. I've been playing games for a long time. I don't know how to, like, really go about it. I've been playing games for a long fucking time, from, like, Super NES back when we were, like, really kids. And competitive, I guess, is what we really want to talk about. And competitive games I kind of picked up with, let's see, I mean, I suppose the real one that I really enjoyed and I really loved was Bloodline Champions, which is the game that I played competitively and then began to commentate in. That was when I really just started talking and doing that sort of thing with tournaments, etc. So I guess BLC would be my main game. Before that, I played a lot of WoW. I played some StarCraft, Brood War, not a lot. A lot of Street Fighter. I was really into arcade games back in the day. So I mean, I've kind of like dabbled a lot. I've never really found a game that I latched onto until it was BLC, and then BLC was like hardcore for a solid year and a half, 2 years. Well, until today, basically.
What about? First off, I think most people in chat, most people watching right now, sort of know BLC. But just in case anyone really isn't familiar with Bloodline Champions, can you sort of give us a quick overview of what it is and how it works?
Yeah, of course. Bloodline Champions is an arena-based combat game. What we mean by that is, you can reference to a couple of other games that are similar. If you look at Diablo 2 back in the day, Diablo 2 PvP is kind of similar to it. Also, WoW Arena. If you look at 3v3 team combat, that's very similar as well. BLC's taken a lot of concepts from these different games and kind of put it into a very simple, very slimmed down version where the competitive aspect of it is 2 teams of 3 go into an arena, and the objective of the game is to kill the other team. And that's through execution, that's through teamwork, that's through communication with your teammates, and obviously, the skills that your characters can use. But yeah, like it's just straight up 3v3, rape the shit out of the other team, and best team is left standing in the end.
No, I haven't actually played BLC. I've been trying to learn a bit more about it, especially in preparation for the show. But is BLC the game where there is no mana? There are cooldowns for. Okay.
Just straight cooldowns. Basically, you have a couple main abilities that don't really have long cooldowns. A couple like a second or that, if that. And then you have your longer cooldown, your defensive cooldowns, your big offensive abilities. They have cooldowns. And then of course you're farming for an ultimate. Every ability that you land in the game generates a small amount of energy. Once you get to 100 energy, you can cast an ultimate ability. So that's of course like the big bang, like I'm gonna melt your face with a fucking meteor or something. That's like the big moment in the game is when you can get your ultimate out. Just like Street Fighter, for example, you go to arcade games. If you land an ultimate, it's game changing. So that's really the big thing about BLC is that you're landing your abilities and then you get your ultimate, and then who can coordinate the best to you get 2, 3 ultimates going at the same time. Somebody gets obliterated, and it's a lot of fun to watch. Yeah, or a lot of fun to watch, at least for me. I don't know. It's one of those games where you actually have to kind of play the game to get it. But yeah.
Well, so I think I've got an idea, and I think everyone who's watching who hasn't played the game yet now has an idea of what it is. What is it for you about BLC that made you latch onto it and take it so seriously?
Well, at the time I was really big into WoW Arena. Like I'd done the raiding, I'd done the grinding, all that shit, and it just wasn't giving me what I needed until, of course, TBC came out and the arena was introduced into the game. And then that was basically the sole purpose for me in WoW, was to just compete in the arena and play the arena. It was 2v2, it was 3v3. I was playing a rogue when it first started, and then I swapped into a mage. And then I was just, that's all I did basically was arena and then some raiding at the time. But when we saw, it was actually at my LAN back in the day. It's closed now, sadly. It closed about a year ago. But we had a LAN where basically everybody there was a WoW Arena fanatic, and they were all like, highly rated. We spent nights just talking about, how to get the edge over your, the other team, etc. It was like just arena talk. And then we saw a video of DLC, and the whole place went silent. Like, it was actually like, wait, what the fuck is this game, and how can we get it? Where is it? Because it was just WoW Arena, but without all the bullshit, without the RNG, without the mana. You couldn't heal people indefinitely. If you took a lot of damage, you suffered from it. It was all the things, all of our gripes about WoW Arena had been removed. It was just straight up, are you good or are you bad? And it was just, it was like the game, it was Valhalla, fucking, whatever. It's just like everything we'd ever wanted out of WoW Arena was right there in DLC. So, of course, as soon as it came out, that's all we did. We just strictly played DLC. And, yeah, from that day forward, I was just like, I have no interest in any other game. Now, recently, I've been playing a lot more of StarCraft 2, but that's just recently. But DLC was definitely like the game for me for the longest time.
So you mentioned casting or hosting. How did that? How'd you get involved with that with DLC?
It was like it was back in at the start. There was the U.S. scene and the EU scene. The EU scene, the European scene, which is where the game is from. Basically, it's a Scandinavian game. It's from Sweden. The Stonlock Studios are the developers, and they're based over in Hovda in Sweden. And so, obviously, the European scene got a lot more attention because the devs were there. They had DreamHack. They had ways to be able to get, the tournaments, the LAN tournaments, etc. It was all right there in Europe. And James Too Good Harding was helping them as their esports manager. So everything was very Eurocentric. So the U.S. scene wasn't getting all that much love. There were some very good competitive teams in the U.S. scene, but the problem with the U.S. scene is that the servers were on the East Coast. So it heavily favored, especially in DLC, which is a very Twitch reaction-based game, like a first-person shooter where ping does matter. If you were on the West Coast or up in Canada, you were shit out of luck. So East Coast really was the center of the U.S. scene. And me being in Los Angeles, I was consistently playing with like 90 ping, which doesn't sound like a lot, and you can overcome it, but you're at a disadvantage. And so I was always getting really frustrated in these tournaments where we would play, and then it would just be like the small little details that add up eventually, and you just lose them. It's just like, it was so frustrating. So eventually we started the Gakkunju North American League, which was a community based around North America and trying to, grow the North American scene to rival the European scene. And there was, hosted tournaments, and, we did weekly tournaments, and we had our message boards and all that, but we didn't have a commentator for the tournaments. And I remember, like, it was just random people doing it, and I'd be listening to the streams, and not to say that it wasn't good, it just wasn't exciting. It wasn't what I thought it could be, and so basically, it was one of the cases of put up or shut the fuck up already, please, because I'd be listening to the commentary while we were playing the tournament. My Skype was like, God damn it, man, just like sound like you're not reading out of a book right now, or just feel a bit more hype. People are just like, dude, just go and do it. All right, but they stop. So I saw it as a new challenge. I was like, okay, whatever, I'll try it out and see if I can do that sort of thing. And really enjoyed it, actually. I kind of surprised myself. I was like, wow, this is actually really fun. At the start, of course, I was nervous as fuck, but I mean, it was, if you listen to my old casts, like, it's really bad. But it was so much fun, and it was so challenging. It was something completely new and different. And I still got to experience VLC, be a part of the scene, despite the fact that we were West Coast, and despite the fact that there weren't as many West Coast players, so it was hard to get West Coast servers. Like, the West Coast server never came, which Funcom was saying, oh, maybe, oh, maybe, oh, maybe, and we kept going and going and going and hoping and hoping and hoping, and it never came. So West Coast scene just kind of died, and the East Coast scene was what was happening. So to keep being a part of DLC the way I wanted to be, I just turned into, commentary full time, basically.
So
yeah, that was why I was talking about Funcom earlier. There's a lot of there's a lot of history there.
One of the things I'm curious about, because I do want to also ask about StarCraft 2, and then with the good show and all that, but staying on BLC for now. Before I do that, guys, if you have questions, go ahead and put them in chat. We'll do our best to get them asked. We're going to ask them at the show is divided into 2 segments, so we're going to take a break at about roughly the half an hour mark. So right before we take a break, we'll ask some of those questions. But Semmler, I'm curious, when you made that transition, that very first cast you did of BLC, and sort of now looking back, within the most recent cast you've done, I'm just sort of curious what's changed in the way you cast, the way you approach it, or the way you sort of, I don't know, the way you feel about the game.
Uh, back when I first started, I was really I was religiously following the fighting game scene because I thought that well, I'm in LA. West Coast scene is huge. I mean, SoCal. There was Wednesday night fights. There was always like SoCal regionals. There was like big tournaments going on all the time, and I was always watching the fighting game scene. And so watching those streams, if you listen to commentary back then, it was just a lot of shouting. But you got you so hyped watching it. You really just you were sitting on the edge of your seat. You were watching a close match, and the match is good, but the commentary made it better because it was just like you could feel the energy grow up with the commentators, and you were just sitting there waiting for the outcome. And so when I was listening to the fighting game, like the fighting game commentary, that's kind of what I tried to bring into BLC because I felt that BLC had the same aspects of the fighting game where it's all about your footsies, it's all about your mind games, but also about your execution. But there's that build up because the closer you get to the ultimates, the more it's going to be on the more it's going to be on the line because those ultimates are game changing. At least back in the day, they were. If you got nailed by a heroic Vanguard's heroic charge, you fucking felt it. You knew that you just got destroyed. So for me, like, it was all about bringing that energy and bringing it to that culmination of, holy shit, something big just happened, and you got to be excited. You got to be as excited as I am because we're watching a sick match right now. And that was all of my commentary. Like, I think I shouted. Like, there was a lot of shouting. I think I shouted for like 45 minutes straight one tournament, where I just didn't stop. And then I kind of realized that, okay, I need to kind of like tune it down. And eventually it's become, now that if I do a match now, I find myself more in the storytelling. It's more like James, if James, he just did that, Real Talk with JP and all that. If you haven't seen it, you should go watch it because he's fucking awesome. But James, I'm living with him now in Sweden, and we talk a lot about this, and really we feel that it's about, the storytelling now and developing that kind of storyline that's going to get people emotionally invested in teams, emotionally invested in the player, want to see that player win. If he's the underdog or if he's the master or whatever, we feel that commentary now is more about telling the story that's going to make people really want to watch and find out what happens versus, just yelling or just hyping it up like I did back at DreamHack Summer. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love that, and I still do that, but at the same time now I try and refine it where I'm trying to tell more of a story along with that. So it's not just me yelling for 6 hours, it's me trying to like go up and down with it and, try and play a bit more on the flow of the match, etc. That's just like, I feel like it's experience. I've spent so much time talking, especially with Cast, who was my co-caster back in the day. He stopped for now because he's very invested in college and all that, but for the longest time it was just me and him, and that's all we did. We did the BLC commentary. That's all we looked forward to, and we spent a lot of time just talking about, okay, we actually have no idea what the fuck we're doing right now, so we got to figure out how we can get better at this by ourselves, because we were just listening to Tasteless and Artosis, or I was listening to fighting game guys, but I was listening to football matches, just to hear what those commentators were saying, like, okay, can I implement that in my style? Can I use that when I commentate? And so we were trying to pull from all these different places to improve our commentary. And eventually, we feel like it kind of got to a point where we were fairly happy with it, where we had the hype, but we also had the story, and we also, were able to not, just refine it, I guess is the right term. Now it's still, now the game has changed. If you go to the present, the game has changed quite a bit from when we first started doing this, and it's become a different beast because we feel that the game has become a lot more turtly, a lot more slow-paced from what it was back in the day. Because at the beginning of BLC, if you fucked up, you died, and that was it. So, but now you have a lot more room for error, it feels. Sure, you can still make a mistake, and the top teams will punish you for that, but it's not nearly the same amount of punishment as it was back in when DLC was first released, when there were no medallions to help you. You just had your ultimate, your EX abilities, and that was it. And you just had to not fuck up. You got hit like a truck. It was a lot of different things going into it. Now the game feels like it's much slower. So when I do commentary now, it's not so much me getting the hype going because this guy's getting chunked. It's more me trying to get the hype going because there's a story behind it. I think that's the turn where it's not so much. It's not the same as it was.
Right. Well, can you elaborate just a little bit on how do you, what does that story mean? So you're talking about building a story, and how do you do that? What things do you include? What things do you focus on?
It's a lot of research, actually. I mean,
Okay,
there's a lot of work that actually goes into it. And if you listen to Apollo, Apollo, who lives with me in Sweden as well, he's at the forefront of SC2 commentary now. He puts an immense amount of work into his commentary because he's constantly watching all the tournaments he can. He's watching all the players. He's getting as much information on the players as he can. Their win-loss ratios, their strategies that they like to use. What is their tendency to do in this situation? How have they performed over the past 6 months to a year? All of this information is what you want to take on these players and on these teams. You want to get all the backstory you possibly can, because with that backstory, with that information, you can then begin to tell a story in the sense that in StarCraft 2, if you take MC versus Stefano, well, okay, MC, he's the boss toss. He's been around. He's just brutal. He tears people limb from limb. He's just an awesome, very refined, powerful player. Stefano is the king of ZVP. And so you can start to already tell the story there between the two, where MC is a monster Protoss and his PvZ is excellent, but also Stefano is the ZVP master, and he's perfected the style. And you can start telling the story about how these two great Colossus are about to go at it in this match, and who knows who's going to come out on top, because they're both magnificent players. And you start trying to get people wanting to watch it, where they're like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen because they're both so amazing. So but all that information that you want on both of those players is something that you add into it to give flavor and to really make it that much more interesting to listen to. Because if you know that Stefano is capable of an 11 and a half minute max, you may be wanting to see if he's going to do that there, and then you see him start going towards that, so you can start building up on it. As far as like, oh, he's going to do this next, and if this goes wrong, he's fucked, and you just kind of it's all about that's telling the story. It's like taking all the information you can about the players, taking what you can about the situation, about the tournament, what's on the line, how and just trying to put it all together to make it compelling for people to watch, make it more entertaining. Even if they don't watch the game, even if they don't play the game, you want to try and make it entertaining for them to watch, because they're like, oh, all of a sudden I know something about this player that makes me want to see him win. I may not know what's happening, but I want to see him win now. And
right.
They'll stick around and watch. That's what we're working on now. That's what I'm like. Paul and I, we spend a lot of time talking about that sort of thing, like how to go about that, and who's doing well and all that sort of thing, so that we can bring it into our past later.
So how much time would you say you spend daily or weekly preparing, gathering information about players?
It doesn't stop. We don't like. And then the best part is that the office is in the house, So I sit down at my PC and I'm working. So whether it be like laddering on StarCraft 2 or playing DLC or shit, spending hours on Reddit and Team Liquid and Yes Reality and I have a folder of websites that I visit daily just to get information on, keep my fingers on what's going on, because now I have like other projects that I want to start, and they're going to take even more time to get ready on a daily basis. So I'm actually trying to think of like how I'm going to make that work in the future. But for now, it's like when you wake up till when you go to sleep, you're on it. Everything we look at now is something that we can use, or it's something that we should be paying attention to. Like the Pro League and StarCraft 2 and Brood War, the Pro League is massive, going on almost every day. So there's that on top of everything else now. So you have the GSL, you have the European tournaments, you have the US tournaments, you have and me, I'm keeping tabs on DLC and what's going on in DLC. What did SLS do? What did Funcom do? And then when we do the good show on Tuesday nights, that's all of esports. So then I'm looking at everything else during the day, like, oh, what's going on in the fighting game scene? Did Counter-Strike? What's this drama? Like Dota 2. So it's just like all this sort of shit. You're looking at it every day, and then you're trying to keep the juicy bits so that you can either use it in a cast or use it for a show. So it's just every day, all day. But it doesn't feel like work because I'd be doing it anyway. It's just now I don't have another job that's keeping me from it. So.
Fair enough. Can't complain about that sort of work.
Not at all, man. Not at all. It's actually, I'm still pinching myself because I'm like, am I really fucking doing this for a living now? Like, what? It's really weird.
Tell me a little bit about how you first got involved with SC2 and why you decided to go, because you were doing BLC, and then tell me a little bit how about SC2 came into your vision and why you decided to start, casting and hosting shows on that as well.
For sure. It was well, I've always been interested in competitive games more so than anything else. So like WoW Arena because of the competitive aspect of that, fighting games because you versus the other guy, the shit guy loses, you know. And like StarCraft 2 was the same thing. At the time, it was from one of my. I really got interested in it because of CJ, who played at my LAN, at the LAN that we all went to. CJ was one of the guys. He wasn't so much focused on BLC and WoW. He was a StarCraft 2 nerd. Like he was in the beta. He was, you know, studying shit, watching YouTube videos and all that. And that kind of piqued my interest. Where I was like, what is this? You know, like because I'd played Brood War, but never, like I never knew there was a pro scene. I just played it for fun, you know, and did the, you know, I did the campaign and that was it. You know, like I never really played online. I just had fun with it. And that kind of dropped away. And then when CJ started doing that at the LAN, I started paying more attention to it and being like, wow, there's actually like a lot going on here. But of course, you know, BLC was still at the you know, the main focus at the time. But I can't remember when exactly it was. I think it was like a year ago when I think it was the GSL. I think I watched like the season 1 finals of the GSL or something like that, Fruit Dealer, and Nick and Tasteless, you know. I was just, you know, I can't remember exactly how I came across it, but point being, I heard Nick and Tasteless commentating, and I was just like, what the fuck is this? I need to be doing this. You know, these guys are amazing. Why am I not doing more of this in my commentary? So all of a sudden, I'm like, I need to watch as much of these, you know, these guys as I can. And then also, it was, you know, StarCraft 2, and I was like, this is awesome. You know, like, I had no idea. What is this? This is so cool. So I started looking into that, and I was watching GSL on a daily basis from there on out, pretty much. Like, I was just watching GSL at the start to get more of Nick and Dan and to take notes for my commentary. But then slowly that became more of me being like, oh my god, that Blink Stalker micro, you know? And then just, and then from there on, it went into me actually like downloading the game, and then CJ and Swifty, Swiftnuts, I can't even remember, what's his real name? Wow, he's probably pissed at me right now because he's probably watching this. Whatever, Swifty. They came over to my place and we'd start landing at my house. So they were like diamond level players or whatever. So it was a joke if I played against them because I was like bottom of bronze, getting into silver, you know, like sort of. But you know, we'd just sit there like Friday nights, Saturday nights, and just like talk about StarCraft 2 and read the StarCraft 2 Reddit, and you know, just do nothing but talk and play StarCraft 2 for nights. And you know, it just kind of went from there where I was still playing BLC, I was still commentating BLC, but I was spending more and more time playing StarCraft 2 and watching StarCraft 2 until it became pretty much 50-50, where I was doing as much for one as I was the other. And yeah, it hasn't really stopped since then. I've kind of now, more so than ever, I'm playing and just talking and doing more about StarCraft 2 than anything else, actually. Like, it's really become kind of the focus for me. BLC has kind of taken a little bit of a step back. I've taken a step back from the BLC community for the time being, I think. But that's for other reasons. That's because Stockholm servers are shit and Funcom fucked us over. So, you know, I can't play the game anymore. So I'm not as invested in it as I used to be. I would have to go to the Russian servers now to actually play the game, and yeah, I can't be asked. So I'm spending all my time on that.
Fair enough. One of the things I keep hearing throughout the conversation we've been having is how social your gaming experience has been. How, yeah, for BLC to StarCraft 2, it's not just getting in a WoW Arena. It's not just playing them and enjoying being competitive. It's you're playing them with other people and you're talking about the game outside of just playing. It's striking to me that there's always that really strong social component in the competitive games that you focused on.
I feel like that's something that's crucial. That's crucial for, or at least, yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, at least for me, you know, it's always been more fun with friends, and that's basically been it. You know, like the LAN. Before that, even when I was playing WoW, it wasn't. I actually didn't get into WoW alone. It was my friend who I met at college who got me into it. Because I was playing Lineage 2 at the time, and I thought that was fun. I was playing with my brothers, and it was like, oh, whatever. You know, we're just grinding on, like, I've got a male dwarf who's kicking ass. That's awesome, you know? And then my buddy was like, you're playing Lineage 2? What the fuck is that? Let me introduce you to this. And he brings out WoW. And I'm like, what is that? Where have I been? Like, holy crap, you know? This is the epitome of, you know, the MMO. So we started just, that was it, man. When WoW like really, you know, started picking up speed, that's all we did every day. But the social aspect was still there because he lives like 10 minutes away from me. So we would play at night. He'd come pick me up around 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. after we finished the raid or whatever, trolling Stormwind or whatever the hell we were doing, and we'd go and eat Taco Bell and like talk about the raid afterwards. We spent like 3 hours breaking down everybody's role in the raid, who fucked up, who did good, what's the new rotation for rogues that we should be using, blah 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 blah. Like we break down everything. It's always been about breaking down the game for me. Like I've always enjoyed it.
All right, guys, we are back. We got Semmler back in here, and we're gonna go straight into part 2. Hopefully we won't have another AFK, but that it happens. No worries. I knew there was something I forgot to tell you, which is that if you don't, a little button appears after like 30 minutes. If you don't hit it, Hangout automatically logs you out. So my bad.
Good to know.
All right. I really wanted to take this full half an hour to ask you just about yourself, but before that, I can't ignore the good show. Can you tell me sort of how you got roped into that, and give me an idea of like what goes into the show? I'm really curious.
Okay, let's see. Well, the good show, it stems off of something that I talked about with James when we first talked about the project, was that, I wanted to do a show that encompassed esports as a whole. And so, we kind of got into that, let's see. We finally got stable enough. We got everything running the way we wanted it to, for the time being, for the good studio as a whole. And so we managed to get in touch with Hellspawn, we managed to get in touch with Newman, who are both, really good friends. And we basically said, hey, we want to do the show. You guys want to do it with us? And they said yes. And we were like, hey, let's roll with it. That's cool. Let's go, The amount of work that goes into the good show is actually kind of stupid in the sense that it does take most of my day to get that show ready. Because we do a Google Doc and basically everybody can contribute. But as far as, what to watch this week, what to watch next week, actually takes up a lot of time because that's part of what I was talking about earlier, where I hit everything on a daily basis. Well, I'm taking notes every day on what's good to watch and what's not. And if it's a slow week, it's kind of just like, shit, I got to find something good, But if it's a packed week, then it's like, shit, there's too much to talk about. So, I've got to find that happy medium of what's, worth watching and what isn't. There's nothing, it's not like nothing's not worth watching, but, sometimes it's just big stuff that you need to talk about. And that's what people need to be looking at. How I got roped into it, yeah. Well, the thing is, on that show is that a lot of people say that I don't talk enough on that show. But the thing is that I'll talk when I have something that's worthwhile to add to the conversation. What you have to consider is that James and Hellspawn and Newman all have about 10 plus years in the industry. So when a topic comes up, they've most likely either seen it before or have an anecdote that will relate to that and be able to discuss it. And me, I'm a fledgling, man. I'm taking baby steps. I don't have anything to add as far as that, is concerned. I'm just starting out. So I'm not going to get into some, discussion about the history of esports, etc. when I'm sitting next to 3 guys who have a decade plus worth of experience in it and who can, just basically bring everything that needs to be said to the table. So I don't need to be getting into that. When we talk about stuff that's happening now, though, like the MLG Kespa thing, I had a little something to add there. I could have added more, but decided to play it safe and just say what I had to say. But I don't feel the need all the time to add to that show as far as the conversation during it. That's something that I've been wanting to say actually for a little bit. But because people are always just like, why Semmler no talk? And that's just because Semmler doesn't actually feel the need to talk because Hellspawn, James, and Newman are actually doing a really good job of it. We're going to work in the future, though, where we're going to play a bit more with, who gets to introduce the topics. And I'll probably be introducing the topics and then adding my 2 cents. But the main discussion is going to be happening around those 3 guys because they just have so much more experience.
Well, can I ask you real quick then, what do you see your role as in the show? Like, where do you see yourself fitting in the chemistry between the 4 of you?
It's something that's been kind of developing. I think last show I enjoyed. It's kind of just something, these guys have known each other for years, and I've known James for a little bit, and I live with him, but, it's still like we're kind of developing the friendship, I guess, where you can get into that friendly banter. You know what I mean? Where it's,
Yeah.
you know, these guys are just good friends, so they know how to fuck around with each other. Whereas me, I'm, you know, kind of new to the party, so I'm trying to figure out where it's, you know, where I can butt in and where I can't, and that sort of thing. But it's also, you know, just like if I have something to say, I'll say it. If I don't, you know, I'm just gonna sit there and laugh at what the chat is saying. Yeah, I'll start adding more to it in the future, but for the time being, I'm fairly comfortable with that.
Well, to sort of wrap up the professional side of you and transition into the personal, where do you see yourself going with the show, with the project in the next year or so?
Well, the good show is going to stay the way it is. I mean, I might as well say it, but my greatest ambition is actually to do an ESPN, but a legit ESPN for esports. That's been one of my major goals for the past year or so, or more now. I've been talking about it for a while, but really, you know, I'm talking about ESPN 80s style when ESPN first started out. That's the way you should cover esports. Make it something that it's short, it's funny, it's to the point. You have your results, you have what's coming up, what just happened. You know, it's just ESPN, but the way it was when it was like a half-hour segment on a radio show. So you didn't even have to watch them. You could just listen to them and be like, hey, everybody, you know, here is what happened. 5-minute StarCraft 2 segment, 5-minute CS, you know, quick, whatever. So for me, actually doing this whole, you know, before and after, like the last week and the week to come, is kind of building towards that, where eventually down the line, when I feel the time is right, we're going to start doing I don't know, I'm still trying to think about how I want to run it, that's the thing, but like I want to do like a daily show where 10-15 minutes long, you know, short and sweet, something you can listen to with your coffee in the morning, but you know, here's the daily breakdown of, you know, what happened today in all the different scenes, and anybody can listen to it because it would cover everything. That's what I really want to do. But I guess, you know, we're still waiting to see, because right now, you know, there isn't frankly enough to talk about. I mean, it'd be StarCraft 2 most of the time. 90% of the time it'd be StarCraft 2, just because that's the scene that's having the most happen in it right now. You know, Dota 2 there's definitely stuff to talk about on a daily basis, but it's a lot of little leagues. It's not, you know, the big happenings. Counter-Strike and Quake, you know, what, you're going to talk about the Zotac Cups on a weekly basis, that sort of thing. You know, so I mean, I'm still working out as far as like when I can do it and how the best format would be, etc. But that's my main goal, is to do that.
It sounds to me like you're talking about something similar to, as Gimble mentioned in said in chat here, you know, Fox Slasher or SC Center, you know, projects that were on for a bit.
That went on, yeah, and you know, Trovopion and Slasher, you know, fucking A, I love their stuff. I love their content. I love Slasher as a journalist. He's a badass, and Trovopion, same thing. But I don't want to get into the drama. I don't want to get into, you know, the stories. I just want to give results. I just want it to be something people could listen to and just find out how did their favorite player do or how did their team do, you know, and not have to go and sift through all the pages of bullshit or go to the sites. You know, if this could be just a podcast that they listen to on the way to work in the morning instead of some retarded shit on the radio, they have their 15 minutes of esports news. You know, that's what I would want to do. Like, I think that nobody's done it quite like that yet, and I hope to be the first. Now that I've said it, maybe somebody's going to do it before me. I don't know, but you know, we'll see.
Well, whoever does it, and I hope it's you, you've now convinced me that this is a great idea. I like the idea, waking up and just being able to listen to something, you know, pretty brief, pretty quick, that gives me the rundown of what's been going on. I like that.
Yeah, it's not there, you know, and there's no site that you can go to that has everything either. You know, that there's no like ESPN.com where you can find everything about every game. That doesn't exist. You have Team Liquids, you have ES Realities, but you know, as I said, I have a fucking folder of sites that I have to hit on a daily basis to get the news. I want there to be one site, one place you can go to and get everything. And so that's one of my goals, is to bring that, you know, make that happen. Whether it be an ESPN style show or a website or something like that, I don't, you know, I'm still working that out, but that's definitely something I want to work on.
Right. I just realized I had one other question I wanted to quickly ask you about the competitive scene. Given that you know, as you said, you follow BLC and StarCraft 2, but you also, with the good show, you sort of have your fingers in all the different games going on, and sort of you're up to date on all that. Yeah, little tentacles. From your perspective, what are your biggest hopes and or concerns about the competitive scene in general in the coming year?
Yeah. Um, I mean, we brought it up recently in the show, which is going to be the next big game that's going to be able to carry us to the next level, I guess. I feel like we're still waiting on that. And when you look at some of the most played games in the world right now, 99% of them are shooters. So we brought that up on the last good show, and we're still waiting to see who's going to have the balls to do it. As far as my concerns in the scenes right now, I mean, viewer numbers have been going down across the board, apart from LOL, I guess. So I'm wondering if maybe we have a little bit of a dip coming. That's where it's going to go down before the next big hype comes, which is probably going to be StarCraft 2, for example, Heart of the Swarm. So I'm just kind of, those are like, they're not. I don't have any major concerns though, because I feel like things are fairly stable the way they are right now. MLG is obviously fighting to find an angle that they can use. If that means strong arming the competition, so be it. That's what they're going to do with their KESPA agreement. But those are all just small concerns. I mean, there's nothing really big for the time being, I feel. At least that's what I'm looking at right now. That's how I feel right now. I actually feel pretty secure. I feel like we still have a lot of room to grow. So really, I'm just going to focus on the positive and, just kind of be like, what can we do to fucking make this better, make what we love better, and, work towards that rather than be like, shit, things are looking grim, But I don't actually spend too much time thinking about that too much. I'm thinking about politics and government, government workings, etc. in the real world. To be thinking about what's going on in esports. That's a sad, depressing thought right there. So.
A little bit. Well, let's move to happier things. Where do we want to go from here? Let's talk about one of the things I'm curious about is if did you go to college or are you in college? Well, I mean, now you're with James and that's sort of a full-time thing. But did you go to college?
I did 3 years, I think. Yeah, I did about 3 years of college, and I don't know. It's a bit of a variety of reasons going into it, but I just stopped and decided to kind of strike out on my own. There's a lot to be said about. I mean, there's a lot to be said about as far as the motives go, and why I did it. That would take all show though, so whatever. But yeah, I did college. It wasn't for me, so I stopped.
Fair enough. After when you stopped college, did you go straight into esports, or did you do other things?
I worked quite a bit. I had good jobs and bad jobs, but I worked quite a bit. I really just felt like working, to be honest. I was kind of annoyed with college and college life and how it was set up. I felt like I was being exploited. So I was kind of just not interested. And so I decided to just do something that made me happy at the time, and that was making money. So I was like, okay, fuck it. I'm going to go get a job and, just kind of live life and see where it takes me. So I had like 2-3 jobs and, for a time, and then it kind of dropped down to one where I was working at a coffee shop, Cacao, which was awesome. I managed that shit. It was so sick. And the only coffee shop in LA that you could smoke inside. And it was open from 6 p.m. to 3 a.m. The place was awesome. It was such a great coffee shop. And then, so I was doing a bunch of random stuff around LA, and then I eventually, started working at my dad's company. Worked with him for about a year or 2 years. Well, I mean, on and off for like the majority of my life, but I was focused on him for like a year and a half. And then that's when, esports came along, and I got the opportunity to go and move to Sweden with James. It was about January this year. January is when I moved. But yeah, that was when I was finally I had an opportunity to really do something with esports, and I just jumped on it. It was like, do I stay here and continue doing this, which isn't bad because obviously I'm with the parental, I'm with the family, and being with family is very important. Spending time with your family, all that jazz. But at the same time, I was like, this is kind of one of those opportunities where you will regret it if you don't do it. And so I was just like, fuck it, move across the world, whatever, just have fun.
Yeah. Can't argue with that logic, yeah. Well, so it sounds like your favorite job was the coffee shop so far. Is that?
The coffee shop was really good. I really enjoyed my time there. That was a good little place. It was not to sound like an intellectual snob or whatever, but it was just like it was an intellectual place. It was one of the last places I'd found in Los Angeles that was like that. It was grimy, it was dirty, it was dark. People sat there. They fucking. I mean, I had writers, I had chess masters. I had all sorts of different kinds of people, artists, but like legitimate artists, like Paul Curley, who was fucking amazing. Like they'd just come in and that was their place to get their coffee and a cigarette. They'd have a cigarette in the corner, you know, just chill out. And so much discussion happened there where, you know, it's hard not to sound like a snob when you talk about it though, you know, where it's just like, oh yeah, you know, we talked and, you know, debated and stuff like, oh, but you know, it was that. It was debates and discussion on a nightly basis. And it was really interesting to be a part of that. When I was like 19, I think is when I was, you know, eventually started doing that. But I mean, like that was for me, like, what the fuck am I doing elsewhere? This is where I want to be. You know, this is an interesting place. This is a lot of, you know, it was just a very interesting place to be, I think. One of the last places in LA. I just went back to it last night because I just got into town. Went back to it last night and it's completely different. It's under new ownership now, so it's just they've tried to make it so that it can make money, which was never the point of Cacao. The point of Cacao was that so long as you're breaking even, you're happy, because the whole point wasn't to make money. The whole point was just because it was Cacao. It was like one of the oldest coffee shops in LA. And then it got bought out, and you know, cool, but they changed it, and it's just completely different now. Now it's just fucking lame. So, yeah, it's not the same thing at all. But everything changes. You know, nothing stays the same forever. So I was there at the golden years, I think, in my opinion at least. Yeah. And I got lucky to see that place and meet those people, and that's about it.
There you go. Well, what's the worst job you've had? Because you said you've had some pretty bad jobs.
There was two. At one point, I was working two jobs. There was Sunglass Hut and Restoration Hardware. Now, I don't know if that's going to mean anything to the Euros out there, but Restoration Hardware is a hardware and indoor, like it's, you know, interior design, that sort of thing. You get your bed sheets and shit there, but you can also get couches. You know, it's kind of like the IKEA of the States sort of thing. And then you got and then Sunglass Hut, well, sunglasses. You know, I was a sunglass salesman for good. I demolished this shit out of that place too. I was like top salesman of that place. That was so good. But I mean, I hated working there. Both of those jobs were like soul sucking because I've always believed. Well, to tell you like where I come from is my father started a company like almost 20 years ago now, where he imports handmade French hardware. That's doorknobs, hinges, that sort of thing. And he brings that to the States and, you know, sells that to architects and designers. So growing up, I was always around, you know, quality. Like, this is a quality product. This is what you should aim for when you want to get something for yourself. If you're going to spoil yourself, you get something good, this is what you're going to get. And so I always, especially when I was learning how to be a salesman and how to, you know, approach people and, you know, develop relationships with them and that sort of thing, based around a product, it was always with that in the back of my mind that I am selling the very best there is. And that's something that's very powerful to take with you anywhere you go, knowing that you're not lying to your client. You know when you say that this is going to be here, when you're dust, it will be. So, like, it's when I went elsewhere to other jobs, like Restoration Hardware and like Sunglass Hut, I felt like I was lying to my clients because I was trying to sell them something, but it's not the best. And I'm telling them it's the best, but I know myself that it's not, and that's just lying. I see that just as dishonest, and you're out to make a buck. Where I've always thought about, you know, you always have to be truthful and tell the truth, which is why, you know, I approach everything I do that way. Where it's like, am I doing the very best I can? With a good studio, you know, it's like, are we putting out the best content? Can we do something better? Can we do something more? And that's something that we have a lot of control over. But yeah, Sunglass Hut and Restoration Hardware, it felt like I was living a fucking lie every day. It sucked. I hated it so much. It was just such a shitty thing, but I needed money at the time, so I was like, fuck it, you know, I'll do it. But those 6 months were just like god awful.
So did you leave them when you got better offers for other jobs, or?
Why did I leave? What did I do when I left them? That's the thing. I remember them. Now I'm trying to remember what I did after I left them. And I think I just kind of, I wanted to break away. I think I was working with my father before that, and I was so used to working with him that I wanted to experience something different. And so I was like, fuck it, you know, I'm going to go and actually work with the competition and then work with something else. And, you know, just kind of see what else is there. And so I did Restoration Hardware, I did Sunglass Hut, but then eventually I was just like, this is fucking awful. And, you know, I've always discussed things like that, like business with my dad, and I was just like, fuck it, okay, I'll come back and we'll work on this project, which was the website at the time, the new website that we were putting into, you know, production. So I was able to, you know, geek out and have fun building the website, and also, you know, still do what I like doing, which was, you know, working with, you know, quality products, etc. But
right.
Yeah.
Huh. All right. We don't have that much time left, so I think we're gonna shoot to our big four, which is movies, music, food, and books. And I think we're gonna try and squeeze in there just other hobbies because I really do want to find out what else you enjoy besides just video games and hardware. I mean, furniture from France. So let's do big four first. Big four first. So let's start with movies. Favorite movies.
Oh shit, man, that's hard.
A list is okay too.
That's the thing. Reservoir Dogs, um, Fahrenheit 451, the old one. But there's so many. There's good ones that are new. Like I can't. That's the problem with these kinds of questions is that I blank. I'm thinking like there's so many good ones out there that I just blank on it. But yeah, I guess Reservoir Dogs is one of my favorites of all time. And yeah, like man, Abu the Souf. There's just so many good ones. So yeah, that's kind of. I'll just stick with Reservoir Dogs for now.
Okay. Well, what about a good movie you've seen in the last year? Last 6 months. Last 6 months. Has there been a really good movie you've seen in the last 6 months?
Casino Jack. Yeah. Jack Abramoff story. That was a good movie. That was played by Kevin Spacey, and the reason why I liked it is because it shits all over the American, system as far as government is concerned, and how they allow lobbyists, which is essentially legal corruption, to take place. It's amazing. It's an amazing movie, and it got zero press. So I'm actually kind of laughing about it. And I'm like, haha, a movie that's actually good and applies to stuff. Nobody knows about it.
This is news to me, but
watching. It's a little bit long towards the end, but it's so very good, and it just shows you so very clearly what a big part of what's really wrong, I think, with this government, or a big part of it. There's obviously other things, but
yeah,
lobbyists is just ridiculously retarded, and so Jack definitely worth watching.
There we go. I know what I'm doing tonight then. So we hit movies. What about music? Genre, bands, even a song? You can say
Music,
recent.
Okay, I've got one. He's always my go-to for this, and it's Mark Farina. He was one of the founders of House with Derek Carter back in Chicago. Derek Carter and Mark Farina. They basically are some of the, I guess, the fathers of house music. And I'm talking real house music, like the good shit house music. So if you want something good, go listen to Mark Farina, the Mushroom Jazz series. I think he's up to like seven or eight now. But those are all pure gold. And Mushroom Jazz, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, just amazing stuff. His live sets aren't as good as his studio stuff, his studio work. But his studio sets are just fucking out of this world. Perfect. Like it's about as close to perfect DJing as you can get. So Mark Farina, definitely go and listen to him. He's just so goddamn good. Yeah. Yeah, about sums it up. He's if anybody asks me who's the best DJ, I usually just say Mark Farina, and then I'll go like, okay, maybe Daft Punk, and then go from there. But he's just excellent.
All right, we're on a good roll. I've got a new movie to watch, new music to listen to. What about food? What about food?
Food, French food.
French food. All right. What a particular dish?
Yeah, quiche Lorraine. Quiche Lorraine. Yeah, that's my grandma used to make those for me, and that was always like the best. So you get a quiche. And
yeah.
It's a quiche Lorraine.
Okay.
It's with it's cheese. It's with little pieces of ham, lardon. It's not ham. It's lardon. It's like chunks of bacon, I guess, or whatever. You buy it in European supermarkets. But yeah, that if it's done right with like handmade crust, it's all crispy and shit. So good. Oh yeah. If you want a good French dish, get a quiche Lorraine with a little bit of salad, a little bit of vinaigrette, maybe a tomato. You're set. That's all you need.
Do you do any sort of cooking?
Some. And now that since I moved to Sweden, I've been doing quite a bit actually. But it revolves around ravioli and sausage. Easy shit to make. Sometimes I'll get creative and like I made bacon pancakes the other day that were pretty good. But like. I was like, I wanted to make strawberry pancakes, but of course we don't have strawberry, we don't have blueberries, we don't have any of that shit. I'm like, what do we have a lot of in the fridge? And I open it up and I see like 10 packs of bacon, and I'm like, bacon pancakes. So I grilled that shit, cut it up, and put it in the batter, and then made pancakes for the house. It was actually pretty good.
Perfect.
Bacon is actually like the major food group that we consume at the house. That's it. You know, it's like if there isn't at least like 5 packs of bacon in the fridge, there's a problem. Somebody needs to make a run, or you know.
Oh my goodness.
That and whiskey, but I'm the only one that bitches when there's no whiskey in the house. Everybody else is like, oh yeah, okay. I'm just like, fuck, where's the fucking whiskey?
What a combo. Bacon and whiskey. I like it. I like it very much. Sounds like the place to be.
Yeah, man, you're welcome to visit. Wherever you want, if you guys are in Stockholm.
There you go. All right, last one, or last of the big four. Books, literature. Read anything recently that really stuck with you, or even not recently?
I'll go ahead and say 2 books that my brother mentioned this morning. He just graduated actually today. That's why I flew in here to celebrate, to surprise him. But he just gave his speech, where he goes over his last 2 scholastic years, something like that, how they formed him as a human being. And one of his things was that he read a bookshelf worth of books, and 2 of those books that were on that shelf were 1984 by George Orwell and Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Both of those books, I think, are crucial for basically everybody. Everybody should read those books. They are more relevant now than when they were written, I think. And you should, if you're looking for reading material, read them. They're absolutely necessary, crucial. And you have Animal Farm by George Orwell as well that you should definitely read. Aldous Huxley, Doors of Perception, that's a sick book. And basically anything by Aldous Huxley and anything by George Orwell, go read. Yeah. They aren't uplifting. So if you're expecting a comical read or something that's going to make you all bubbly and happy and all that, don't. Just don't. You're going to fail miserably. You're gonna. Yeah, that and Clockwork Orange too. Read Clockwork Orange. That's a magnificent book. But yeah, my brothers are now joining.
Some pretty heavy stuff.
But if you're gonna read something, you can read, like, it's cool to read fish novels, which fish English. My English teacher, he's like, oh, you read this, that's a fish novel. You're a fish. Like, for some reason that was an insult to him, so now I start using that. But it's just like, if you're gonna, like, you can read garbage novels every once in a while. But if you're going to take the time to read, you should read something that's going to give you more understanding of what's going on in the world, I suppose. Or just, like, give you some food for thought, I think, is more important. And heavy literature, like, I don't even consider them heavy literature, to be honest. There's some heavy shit out there, like Crime and Punishment. Like, that's a heavy fucking book. If you want to read a heavy book, you read Crime and Punishment. That fucks with your head. 1984 and Brave New World, though, they fuck with your head, but they're different. They're a little bit light. You can get through them. But I think it's more the concept of what's going on, because you're going to be able to apply those directly to what's going on in the real world right now. That's when you're going to feel really, like, depressed. So, those are going to be fun. Like, read those. Those are excellent books. And I can't emphasize that enough, to be honest, because I feel like people aren't reading anymore. And I think that's a very sad state of affairs. So, read, people. It's very important.
Semmler's words of wisdom. All right, so I guess last question, and we'll end with this. We'll end on a pretty light note. We seem to be having some issues to the Google servers. I hope this keeps up with us for the last couple minutes. Hobbies, activities, things you enjoy outside of gaming.
There's a lot of different things. Hockey. I used to play a lot of hockey. I don't play it so much anymore. I guess hobby is like what I do now. Well, for the past 6 months, we've just been so consumed with everything that's been going on in the studio and getting ready for that and all that I just haven't had time for anything else. But before that, I used to do quite a bit of rock climbing. Kendo is something I also practiced. I practiced it here in LA. I haven't found a place to do it, and I actually have to ship my armor over to Sweden to be able to practice it there. There is a place, so I'm thinking about doing that and getting back into that. I definitely miss it. Yeah, I guess, rock climbing and Kendo would be like the 2 big things. If not, basically like looking for music. I spend a lot of time looking for new music. So those are like my big 3, I guess. Reading.
When you say looking for music, looking for like live music, new artists, or looking online for new things that you enjoy, or both?
Anything. Doesn't matter if it's new or if it's old. Like, I spend a lot of time looking for just anything that's good. Like I got back into Frank Zappa recently, so I've been listening to a lot of Frank Zappa. If anybody, I don't know if people are familiar with him, but he was like really big in the 70s, psychedelic rock. But he had a lot to say as far as free speech is concerned and his, critical thinking. He was a very intelligent man. So not only did he do completely mind-fucked, weird-ass songs, but then he'd get into a fucking debate about free speech. So it was actually like a really interesting person, like guy. So I've been listening to a lot of Frank Zappa lately, and so just a lot of different things going on.
Fair enough. I'm trying to keep up with chat here to find some questions to ask you. And
there are people, like, I haven't checked, but like, are there actually people watching this ridiculous stuff? What's up, everybody?
Yeah. Everyone loves you.
I'm not a hipster.
You should have. It's a shame you weren't watching chat. You were getting a lot of love. Still are.
I'm a hipster. That's what I see in like caps right now. What's up?
Yeah.
Do you believe?
People want to know if you're going to be at DreamHack.
Fuck yeah, I'll be at DreamHack. I can't wait for DreamHack. That's actually, I had to cut I was going to come here for like 2 weeks to have time to catch up with everybody, but because of timing, it couldn't be worse. Like, my brother is graduating this week, so that was like, of course, like, I was going to make it back here to surprise him with that and like be here, but DreamHack is coming next week. So, and then MLG Anaheim was happening this weekend, and I wanted to it was perfect timing for MLG Anaheim to happen, so I'm going to be here for graduation and MLG Anaheim, and then I'm flying back on Monday. And I think I lose a day because of fucking time zones, so I actually land on Tuesday, and then I think the next day we go to Jönköping to start getting ready for DreamHack. So, like, it's just like, we're just going to be, like, flying. So DreamHack goes on, and then there's, I believe, Assembly Summer is coming up in August as well. That's the next big thing I think we're looking forward to. And then, obviously, everything going on with DreamHack, like, yeah, the studio, we're involved with them. So. Yeah, I can't wait for that. I'm definitely going to be there. I'm going to be at the DLC booth as much as I can. But I think what I'm going to be doing is mainly handling StarCraft 2. So that's really where I think they're going to want me. But the DLC, I'm going to be there as much as I can. Because, you can't not go to the DLC booth at DreamHack. I was there for the first two. I'm not going to miss the fucking third.
Gotta stay with it. Is there anything, sort of in closing, is there anything that you want to mention or to talk about that we haven't touched on yet?
No, dude. I really just want to say thanks. Thanks for having me on the show. It was a big surprise. Haven't really done many interviews, so that was actually like, what? People want what? But it's cool. Thanks very much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. It's cool. And just thanks to everybody for supporting the studio and supporting what we do. Really means the world. And all we want to do is just do more. So hopefully that's what we'll do. We're not going anywhere as far as I know. So yeah, just want to say thanks.
Well, I am happy to say that we have the privilege of being one of the first, but certainly not the last Semmler interview. I remember seeing you on The Good Show. I think within the first 15 minutes, Gimble and I decided we had to get you on. Like, there was just something about, and it comes through in this interview too, there's something about your personality, the way you present yourself, that just bespeaks someone of a lot of knowledge, a lot of charisma. It's the perfect person to find out sort of what drives them. So it's been an absolute pleasure. And we're trying to keep to an hour if we could, and at the time, we'd make it 3 hours easy. But we do want to keep it short so we don't keep everyone here all night. And I know you've got a lot to do. So shout-outs you want to do. Any last ones? And where can people follow you?
Yeah, shout-outs to the BLC community, of course. First and foremost, always love the BLC community and everybody a part of it. Even Musashi. And shout-outs to the StarCraft 2 community, really, for accepting me. I was really expecting to take a lot of flack when I first got into it, and to be honest, I've been amazed with how cool people have been. So, the StarCraft 2 community is awesome. I fucking love, doing everything that we do for them. And, shout-outs to the big two, I guess. The Good Studio, of course, to James for bringing me over, for giving me the opportunity. And, man, it's just really, that's about it. It's just shout-outs to the studio, shout-outs to the communities. We do what we do because we love what we do and because we love, bringing it to you. So that's really what it's all about. And, just stay tuned, I guess. You can find us at, The Good Studio, twitch.tv, The Good Studio. We also have a subreddit at reddit.com/r/The Good Studio, where you can find our schedule and everything that we have to do there. We're working on the website now. I promise it's under construction. So you'll have a place you can actually go to find videos and information and news and all that sort of shit. But for the time being, it's really the Twitch channel and then the Reddit and Twitter and all that shit. But, yeah.
Perfect. Guys, you can, you should see it, have been seeing it throughout the cast, but right under Semmler's beautiful mug, there is his Twitter, so you guys can, if you aren't already, you probably are, but if you're not, you can go follow him there. And just let you guys know, from here on out, next week till whatever, we're moving to a new time, so we don't conflict with JoJo anymore, and so that we sort of have a little more breathing room ourselves in general. We're moving to Tuesdays at 5 p.m., so next week will be Tuesday at 5 p.m. We'll, for those of you who follow us regularly, we'll send out tweets and let you know. Next week, though, on Tuesday, we'll be talking with Legion's Maker, and then one of their staff, Legion's Buttery Greg. So check that out, and thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next week.